Welcome, everybody. I am so happy that you could all join us today, most especially because when the webinar was first scheduled, Canadian thing, I will do the Canadian thing and apologize that we always do anyway. Canadians are known for apologizing, whether we need to or not. But yes, I'm very sorry. It is Thanksgiving Day. So I thank you so much to those of you who are joining us live. If you are joining us on the recording, I hope you had an awesome Thanksgiving. And there is a chance that we may repeat this live very shortly as well too for anybody who wanted to come on. Maybe we'll give it a little change up. So just keep an eye for that. So today we are talking about automating your firm. For those of you who don't know me, I'm sure everybody does. Otherwise, I'm not sure how you would have gotten the invite from one of my groups and whatnot, but I am Tanya Hills. I am a certified professional bookkeeper, as well as accredited impactful advisor and founder of Cloud Business Services and Tanya's Bookkeepers Bootcamp. I am joined today with Omri Mann. Is that right? Mann's the last name, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'm like, oh no, I forgot to look that up after because we were chatting beforehand. I'm like, no, going by memory, think it's Mann. Anyway, and Omri is founder of a very exciting new app that actually causes a lot of, or solves a lot of challenges that I know I, for one, face. So I suspect many of you are facing the same thing. So Omri, just introduce yourself to the group first off.
So first of all, thank you for having me, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody that's watching. And a little bit about us. So we're a fintech or a payment startup, depends on your definition. But the sole objective of what we do is to make sure that the small businesses we work with, and especially bookkeepers and accountants, are getting paid. This is both me and my founder. We had a few businesses in the past, and if there's anything that we didn't like is, manual billing and chasing payments and the effects it had on our business. So we actually scratched our own itch, and we've built a product that automates billing completely from proposal all the way to reconciliation, and make sure that payment is automated so we can enjoy the side effects of it.
Awesome. Yeah, and I actually am just extremely excited and got to use yesterday. There's a couple of little glitches only because I'm Canadian and I'm the first test on the Canadian side of things. So make sure that you guys know that. On the US side of things, I'm sure everything is running beautifully because there's been no issues on that end. But yeah, I got to go in and it really is easy. And I think, when Omri and I spoke, I think the whole kind of concept around today's webinar is how simple it is, because it is very, very simple. So we'll do a little bit. So Omri does have a deck. So we'll just go in and do a little bit before you bring up the deck and go into that. Let's just kind of go into a couple of different things. So this is going to qualify for CPD. I am sending out some polls. So we're just going to launch the first poll right now. And the first poll is accounts receivable an issue for you? So answers yes, no. I could have got a little funny in there and just put, what is accounts receivable? But I figure, hey, no kind of covers that as well. So we'll give everybody a chance to answer that is joining us live. So it looks like we've got, I'll do a countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. End poll. So I'm going to share the results. So 50% of us say yes, AR is an issue. AR is an issue even at times when we don't, like personally, we don't have HR. And I'm just going to go back and just kind of digress here and just say a little story. So after I spoke to Omri the first time, really learned about Anchor, what it did. I called up Sherry Lee Mathers, who many of you know is my work spouse. She's my nobody, and this a nobody who's a somebody who's a nobody. We call it the NO buddy, or the KNO buddy for knowledge buddies, or to help us say no to things. So not a insignificant nobody. But anyway, her and I collaborate a lot, and I called her up. She's always the first call. And of course, she is very, very apt savvy. And I know she's already had a couple of hours of conversations, I think, with Tal on her end of things with some wonderful suggestions. And I'm like, yeah, there's a whole bunch more. But I said, I'm just trying to get past stage one first before we get into that. But the first thing she said to me is, Tanya, she says, you use Rotessa. So a lot of people, know Rotessa up in Canada does pad agreements. And that only costs me $30 a month on that. She says, you use Rotessa. It's costing you $30 a month for everything. This is going to cost you more. And we'll tell you, it's not much more. It's still very minor. But she says, why would you do that change? It's going to cost you more than $30 a month. And I said, you know what? The ease of use, it's going to help save man hours with myself. I'm going to be able to have Leanne do some things and have it set up there. And at the end of the day, it's going to be so simple because it's going to take out a lot of that manual entry part of it. The other part that we're going to talk about, that I'm going to launch this second poll right now that we can talk about really quickly. Let me just get this in here. Where's poll? Is revenue leakage.
So basically,
Well, let's not tell them. Let's not tell them. Here's the poll.
Let's do the poll.
Do the poll first. Is revenue leakage an issue for you? So
I think maybe it's important to explain revenue leakage as well.
And we're going to after. Yes, one of the answers is, what is revenue leakage? So we're going to be able to see how many people don't know what it is. Because you know what? I knew what it was. I didn't realize there was an actual terminology for it until you introduced me to it. And I actually have numbers of 2 bookkeepers that I can share that is pretty staggering. So we have got, I'll do a countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to end the poll. So we've got a yes, a no, and most people are, what is revenue leakage? So what is revenue leakage, Omri? Tell us what it is first.
First of all, thank you for the wonderful introduction. And I'll just, come before we speak about Anchor and our solution. The thing that is important for me in this and the time we spent together is to be able to add as much value as we can in the precious time people are giving us. So revenue leakage is something that happens to all of us. We just, as you said, we don't have a name for it. So let's say you have a client and all in the middle of the month, he's asking you for something that, is not, it's out of scope. And you're talking to him, you write it on a Post-it note and you post it somewhere, hoping you'll remember to add it to the end of the month billing cycle. And what happens is that you forget, or the Post-it drops or something happens. You discover that like 3 months later, so, oh, wow, I didn't bill him for that. And now you have a dilemma. If you found it, do I talk to my client? Do I confront that? Do I 3 months later, and then, you're having this angel devil conversation in your head, like, what should I say? Okay. And then either way, it's a point of friction. And many of us, due to that friction, because the relationship is so important, we waive it. We say, okay, so next time or something like that. That's revenue leakage. So that's one. This is something that we know. Most revenue leakage happen when we're unaware of it. So I'll give another example. Let's say we have an engagement letter with a client. And when we met him, we gave him a discount, or sorry, or we said, okay, that next year it's going to be a 3% lift in the prices. Something in that initial agreement promised us a lift in revenue. But then the year ended, and normally what we do is we duplicate an invoice, the last one, or we just continue to roll it. So that money that essentially was ours and the ability to apply it to an invoice, either we forgot all about it, or again, we mixed our emotion in it and said, oh, they had a hard year, so we won't raise prices. That again, this is money that's basically already was agreed with the client that it's yours, and due to either forgetting it or the friction that we feel and we bring our own emotions into that relationship, we sever that. So that's revenue leakage. And according to Dun & Bradstreet report from 2019, sadly, that accounts, and this is in the US, these are US numbers, for 4.6% of the margin. And for most small businesses like ours, I think like the margins are not gigantic. It's, you know, between 12 and 20%, maybe a bit higher or lower, depends on the business. But either way, revenue leakage is massive. And more than anything, these are things that we normally just are not even aware of. So when I spoke with you, you went in and dived in to just poke into it. What did you discover?
I am going to do a share screen so that people can see this. These are my real numbers. Which screen am I sharing? Am I sharing the Excel screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so these are my real numbers of only the monthly recurring revenue. So I guess, well, it should be the MRM or MRR. I don't know. I have MRM, but anyway, this is only the monthly recurring. This is what I could track. I cannot track the out of scope stuff that we've done. I just don't have that set up. This is like I track very quickly. So I'm just going to bring this a little.
You can
I'm going to bring it bigger. Yeah.
percentage. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, there we are. My real numbers. So I've got the recurring revenue, again, that's trackable, strictly only the recurring, none of the out of scope stuff. This is only on the bookkeeping side of things, has nothing to do with the other part of my businesses. And yes, we've gone up and down. We've been hit by COVID just like everybody else and strategically fired some clients and whatnot. So here is based on annual years. 281, I took a 3% on this because we haven't really increased anybody through COVID at all. This is just based on 3% increase, which my apps have gone up more than 3%. I'm paying more. I've given raises to my team, but I have not increased any of this. This is the amount for that 1 year alone for 2020 that I should have increased in 20. This is my 2021 loss. If had I've increased. This here is what I brought in 2021. I've added this to here. So if I had have taken those recurring numbers, put it in here, this is my loss that I should have increased this on January 1st of 2022. But again, I'm like, oh, we're still in tough times. We're still on COVID. So this is my 2022 loss. And then this is what I should be increasing. This is based on last year. Again, we lost some clients, some stuff. We fired some strategically due to that. We're rebuilding. This is, again, only the bookkeeping side there. This is what it would have been had we have had this income brought over. This is the loss. So this is my 2023. So if I don't increase in 2023, that's my total loss from 3 years. That is staggering. And again, this is only what I can track only on my recurring ones that are set up on the pads for Mortessa, that are set up on a fixed fee. This is nothing else. Just the ones that are automatically coming out of Vertessa, because I've got sales agreements that repeat forever until I change them. Vertessa, it repeats forever unless I change them, and I haven't changed them. That is this. That is a staggering number.
So then this is what you're aware of.
Again,
Sadly,
yes, that is what I can track. That is what I can track easily without spending time going back and pulling each client and pulling the hours I've done. This is, again, I just went and pulled it. I have not tracked how much time we put into them, loss. So that number, I'm sure, is probably at least double. And that's probably being extremely conservative, extremely conservative.
I would agree. And I think, so this for us was, I'll give a little bit of background. I think we jumped right in and it's important, but this is a big part of why we're doing what we're doing. So when we started, so the company started over 3 years ago, but I've been an entrepreneur myself, basically since I was a kid. But the real companies actually started in 21. I opened a few companies with my brother. And then we always were in software. And as I said, every time I used to have a website building business. And it was very, very frustrating that every time we would really put a ton of effort. And normally, at least, my clients always ask things, the ETA for them had to be yesterday. So they always come late, they don't have all the materials, and it was always, okay, wow, we need it yesterday because we have this launch, we have this thing. So I would slave for nights to make sure that I meet their deadlines. And I think we've done a tremendous amount of work and very good work. But the minute that pressure ended, all of a sudden, when I would send an invoice, they would not disappear, but they would not be as reactive, and I would have to chase them for a payment. And for me, it was very frustrating because I didn't understand why that happens. And so this was a very personal pain point for me for years. And moving on, every time, even if it wasn't personal, it was always like this whole of time and energy and focus that it was never fun or never something that anyone wanted to engage with. And what was in the first survey is very interesting, because this is exactly representing, we're talking to hundreds of clients. And when they're saying, okay, do I have AR problems? Most people look at late payments. Is it problematic for me to get paid? And for bookkeepers and accountants and everyone that's a financial advisor, you're a trusted advisor. So for many of you, it's not issue like people will pay you on time. The question is, and that's the other half, how much time do you need to spend on it to make sure it actually happens? And then it really depends on the type of service. If it's hourly basis, is it's changing, or is it completely fixed? But what we see is that half of the people have an issue with late payments and with the fact that it's not organized and it's not efficient. And the other half, it's very efficient, it's very organized, but they still waste a lot of time around the manual work and communication that it requires to get it properly done. So it was very surprising that it was half and half, because that's exactly our experience.
Yeah, and we don't have a lot. I mean, you've seen those numbers. Out of those numbers, the max that I'll have at any given time is, maybe 5 or 6, because we do a lot like on these services. I guess if we look at everything, the max I'll have is about 10 grand at any given time from everything. But people tend to want to pay us last. And so this is exactly why I go billing up front and all of this other stuff. But yeah, you take a look at, again, the out of scope, and there's ways that now you've had me thinking, and we're going to be implementing for the new year, ways to be able to double check that. Because again, up until now, we've been going annually. When we go and do the price check, I kind of go in, and yes, we still use T-sheets, not for billing, but I go in and pull that. And then I kind of take a look at the ratio. Are we profitable on each client? Are we working within the estimated hours? Has there been scope creep? Because we're not actually tracking. So we are going to have essentially an end of month sheet that each of the bookkeepers, when they're working on their client, is going to, here's how many bank accounts, here's how many this, here's how many that. So we can do a quick check. Has something been added that maybe hasn't been mentioned to me that, oh, no, that's out of scope. Oh, they've turned on multi-currency. Oh, you've added 4 employees, something that is, somebody forgets to bring to my attention, because I know we're losing revenue leakage there, as well as the fact that, again, just volume is growing on some clients. And because I've felt bad for them, and they nurture a part of me that many of us bookkeepers, and I say all of us bookkeepers, even if you don't think you have it, you have it. All of us bookkeepers have, especially, we feel bad because of their financial situation. This is one thing where I really envy the accountants of us, because I have not seen any accountant that has had the same barriers that we as bookkeepers have had through COVID. The accountants are like, nope, this is changing, prices are going up, and it's the accountants just have a different make inside, and they're taught differently. And the bookkeepers, we just let people walk all over us. So I really envy, that the accountants, are in general built differently for that. But It
Tanya,
happens. It happens to all of us. Think about that. And so that's why I say this number is huge. And I actually do challenge every single one of you to go ahead, pull your numbers real quick. I'd love to see on the call and have people just kind of type in. You don't have to type in, big numbers, but was it higher or lower than you've expected? I bet you I wasn't expecting that. And then, no, we got everything under control. We got this. I know what it is. I know we're okay. Yeah, no.
I do
So
want to say
thank you,
one thing.
Omri, for coming into my life and pointing out where I need to make these changes and giving me a solution.
Thank you, but I want to like really quickly address what you said. So the grass always looks greener on the other side, but we're serving both accountants and bookkeepers, and I can tell you for a fact that it's not greener. They're making the exact same mistakes because they value the relationship as well, and they're forgetful. It happens like, and we've seen a lot of creative ways that accountants are trying to deal with that. Many of them, like the thing is like, okay, we won't do anything until you pay us, but then it really creates like it's not a good service to the clients that they're trying to be very protective of their of their money. It's a bad service in general. It inhibits growth. The other thing we saw is that they do everything and then they're not being paid on time. And we saw people that take bridge loans for next year because they know that they're going to be paid, but it's just not now. And I can say, like, really, this is something that affects everybody, everyone that has a service, a business that's providing a service, sadly falls into this trap, and not of any fault of our own. The structure of billing, and then maybe I can share the presentation a little bit here, is right.
Yeah, so sorry, while you're sharing that, I just want to point out there's been a few people that are asking, will you be at QBC in Vegas? The answer is yes, they will be. There is no booth. So Talia's put her information in there to coordinate with Talia. We'll probably know where they are at all times. And I think we've kind of, already agreed that somebody will be with me from Anchor so I can make sure that they get introduced out to people and whatnot. So look for me and I'll definitely, at least if there's nobody, hanging with us, I'll be able to make sure that I know where they are, be able to get you connected. But Talia's got her information in there as well. So to connect with Talia ahead of time too. So, and Galate, we've already got you scheduled. I sent you a text on it anyway. So yes. So yeah.
Can you open the sharing option?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Are you not allowed to share?
Okay.
That's okay. Just bear with me. It's Zoom changed. Who can share hosts and panelists? You should be able to.
All right. So first of all, maybe we can start with this. So when we talk to people, and this is nice, when we talk to people and ask them, how do you feel about their accounts receivable? We get one of three answers. Either one, it's hard, but we're getting it done. And this is the experience. Or they say, okay, no, we have like 6 programs. They're attached together with Zapier and duct tape. And and it's wonderful. We spent thousands of dollars in it in a decade of our life, and we have a solution. And others potentially are less fortunate, and this is their reality. They say like it's a complete mess. And when people are really honest, they say we're all three, depending on the client, depending on the day, we're all three. And
I love these pictures because this is so true. And I bet you everybody out there watching right now can relate to these. And I hope you're laughing at these pictures too, because they are so true.
So when this came from our own experience, and I know for many of us, even a solution about getting paid faster or automating, like really automating it, is something that we don't even consider, because we consider like the hustle of chasing our payments or missing out is a cost of doing business, like a chronic pain that we've learned to live with. And sadly, and this is where I'll agree, and I think that we're all at fault here, but we're the last to be paid, meaning that instead of being in our, we're advocating pay yourself first. And if I need to look into how we define what we're doing, is basically making sure that the oxygen of the business, which is cash, is readily available according to what you've already earned. And we'll touch base about this in a minute. But it's really exactly the same as in an airplane where there's a situation, the oxygen mask falls. We all know that the parent should, put the oxygen on himself first. And I think it's very much so when you're working with your clients. So if I'm looking at where we started, when we looked into this is a bit cumbersome, but basically there's a lot of steps to get paid. So you need to understand what goes into the invoice, create the invoice, send the invoice, you need to validate it was received normally. I'm talking about the old format. It really depends on, your tech stack and how it looks. You send notifications, and if someone's not paying, you have a collection call, then you have payment, then you need to actually reconcile it. I got tired saying that, you got tired listening to that, and that's one invoice. If we're looking into a full cycle of, let's say, 100 invoices, it will look something like this. And sadly, here is where you already finished working. And then you need to do all these steps in order to actually get paid. The sad thing is the statistics. And so I think that you're following Tanya, and you probably are a lot more advanced than the majority that we're talking to. But the reality is that for them, almost half of the payments are late. They're not arriving at time. So when we looked into that, we said, okay, what would it look like in a perfect world? And for us, it meant very much like SaaS and e-commerce. You do your thing, and then you just get paid automatically. And we set out to create that solution, and I feel we really nailed it. So we created a solution that there's 0 manual steps in order for you to get paid. So there's no manual invoicing, no manual collection, no follow-up calls, payments, reconciliation. There's no errors because it's automated, and hopefully there's no frustration. So you simply get paid. And the way that we went about it is we understood that for you to get the automation part completely trustworthy, you had to start, or we had to start before the billing even begun, at the agreement stage. And normally, and maybe this is another opportunity to ask the cloud, like how does your proposal look, or what do you use for, to sign a new client? And so some of them it's PandaDoc or DocuSign or HelloSign or an email or a Word template or any of that. The problem with those is that they all represent a paper. It's a digital paper, but it's still paper. And this is the biggest part of the issue. We wanted to create something that is a single source of truth that through the years and through the changes of scope will remain relevant and keep the relationship transparent and streamlined. So we created an agreement that is completely digital, so both a computer can understand it and a human can understand it. Another thing we did is, instead of you sending an attachment, you send a link. So here you would send the link to your client with your branding, and you'll state the services, how much does it cost, like in all the terms, but it's going to be really summarized so that your client can actually look at it in a glimpse and understand, oh, this is exactly what I spoke with them on the phone. Sign this really quick. And the minute they sign, the screen will flip, and we will ask them for their payment information in advance before you start working. So it's either a free ACH or a credit card. And the default is that the client is paying for the credit card and not you. And then you'll do your work. And once you complete it, it's either according to a time schedule or actually a submission of something. The invoice will be populated directly from the agreement automatically and then paid automatically. And the reason we're able to do that is because you've created that proposal already in a format that the computer knows how to work with it. And it can support anything a paper can support: milestones, volumes, hours, a single payment, a recurring payment, whether it's yearly or like basically all of the structures, so that it will keep the automation. And after the payment is completed, we're transferring the money and reconciling it in your books. So essentially, what we've done is take all these different steps of accounts receivable, but plus the proposal, and merge them all into one, so you can put it in the background. The nice thing is, and this is where I'm most excited, is that we're changing the status quo. Right now, for the majority of businesses, the status quo is you do your work and then nothing. And then someone needs to take action for you to get paid, your client normally. What we want is when you work, the default is you're getting paid. No one has to do anything. If your client for any reason wants not to pay you, then you can actively do something. But if everything's okay, and like 99% everything's okay, it just flows. So you don't have to deal with the AR process, and your client doesn't have to deal with their AP process. So it's all very, very streamlined. And the impact that we're seeing on the businesses that we work with is tremendous. They're shaving hours every week. And in terms of, we don't have final numbers to share. We'll do that probably at the end of the year when we compile all the data, but at least from what we're getting or the responses, they're very, very meaningful in terms of the lift that they're seeing in actual cash flow, the ability to forecast. And we're really excited to see, actually how that compile at the end of the year.
Yeah, no, and I'm really excited. And I will share with you guys what my process was and what my experiences was yesterday when I went through and did that. So you can just see, a difference of the manual time. So first off, I do want to address a question that's come in. Can you handle PAT in Canada? Currently, it is US. We're just tested out. So with me being Canadian, I can bill my US clients because I do have some US clients that I work with. So I can bill US clients, not billing in Canada, but we are going to be working on that. That was one of the first things I said when I spoke to them. And it will be fair, should be fairly simple once you get like a change or two in the back end. So I know the answer when we did the Facebook Live was hopefully as soon as possible, but is there like an idea? Are you like hoping this will be like Q1 of 2023, or you think maybe more Q2? Where do you have an idea where that might fall in?
I'll tell you this, since our experiment that pushed us forward with this, I think everybody, including and especially the developers, that they shy away from anything that will cripple their plans. I think it was a very positive experience. The fact that we saw that, actually doing something in Canada and looking into the compliance of other things and payments wasn't that difficult. So we're definitely adding this to the plans. It wasn't before I met you. Canada was not on the map in terms of like the immediate future. We definitely planned it, but let's say, okay, like it's going to take a while. So right now it's on our map. I can't like really commit to time.
Not sure how soon.
We haven't investigated it, and I want to make sure that we're dealing with people's money. So we were checking the local laws, we're checking the compliance, we're checking like other systems and integrations. So there's a lot of due diligence that need to come before that. On my end, and I'm more the business person, so I have a tendency to push developers and everybody and say, yeah, okay, so just like let's put another person in it, and they tell me you don't understand. Like there's a process. It's like there's a joke about marketing people that if they had their way and they say, okay, generate a baby. So say, oh, no, it takes 9 months. So, okay, so just, like put more effort into it. So,
still takes 9 months.
Yeah, so it doesn't work that way. But I think what we'll definitely aim for is the beginning of the end of probably the end of the first quarter. That will be what we'll be aiming for. And I think like through you, we'll update how it goes. If everything goes smoothly, then possibly earlier. From my experience with developing software, it never goes smoothly. So it's always a matter of testing it. And I'm sure that with your help, we'll be able to really speed it versus what, if we didn't have you to actually be the lakmus paper that, provide a sanity check for us. So
Yeah.
that will speed everything.
And that's awesome. And that's exciting because I've done coding. I know it was in high school and I walked away and I said, computers are not the wave of the future. Well, was I wrong? So I had to learn binary and string and all of this other stuff. So it was very interesting, but I do have an appreciation. I would never do it. I have an appreciation to what goes into it. So I can, yes, absolutely understand. And I know our Canadian laws are very difficult. But one thing I can promise you and everybody else out there that, yeah, you guys like keep up. We will let you know. Absolutely. And I think that when you're ready to come into Canada, it's just going to go boom, because you'll have so many people that are excited. So yes, I will be, to you guys out there watching, I will be working with them because I want them in here as soon as possible for, my Canadian clients on the bookkeeping side of things. And we've got, I know, Omri and I were just talking at the beginning of the call before we came on, Sherry Lee Mathers has already spent, I think, an hour or several hours, I think, with Tal on that. And definitely she's the one, if you guys know Sherry out there, she is the one. She demands, and she's going to give me hell when she watches this. And she's probably watching it on the Facebook Live, but
I
for
think she was
the thing,
wonderful and
she did, but
very,
she will push you to be your
well,
best. She
we
will
love
push
that.
you to be your best and be perfect. And
We
she's
love
really excited too, because she saw my excitement. And when she went in, she's like, I can see why you're excited. So my process that I went through. So what I used to do is when somebody would come on, we would have to go ahead. And so I'll just talk Canadian clients. And then the US was a little bit different because of multi-currency, of course. So I would have to go in, we would bring on a brand new client. Once they're set up, everything's recurring and we're just talking revenue leakage, which is still a big issue. But when they come in, they sign our contract, they sign our engagement, Rod, can you close the door, please? I'm sorry, guys. I've got my sister's 2 dogs, my husband's home, and the dogs are around him. So a little bit more flurry in the background. But again, welcome to life, post-COVID, right? So, so I would sit there, they would sign the engagement and the proposal at once. It would come in. The pad agreement would then go separately. Now, these flows were automated, but they still had to do things separately, which meant they would then click on a different email to open that and do that, which sometimes they would just do the one and not realize another email was coming in, even though we would tell them it would be coming in. So then they would sign that. Then it would come in. Then I would have to set up the sales receipt in QBO, set up the pad agreement in Rotessa, and then have everything all match. And it was perfect. And I still had to go in and I still have to do some customizing on every one of our proposals. When we're talking multi-currency, even more frustrating, because then what I would have to do is, because I'm a Canadian, I have a US bank account, I have a US credit card, I can't get a US Stripe account very easily because I don't have a physical US office and address. So therefore, I can only only use ACH, and then people would, kind of send their other ways in the back end, and we'd have to wait for them to be able to go ahead and set it up. If they want to pay on credit card, well, now the invoice has to be in Canadian dollars to be able to pay by credit card. So again, it's a huge, huge issue on that. So when I sat down last night, and there were, a couple of bumps, because again, I'm the first one in Canada. So we realized there was a bump and it got fixed, fairly quickly. So I'm very happy with that. You guys were extremely responsive. So, way to go to your support team and development team for getting that all done so quickly. So we sat down last night and went in, and it was literally boom, 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 boom. So the services are there that we can just pick from. So I picked the services. It's already set up. It goes, and we, have people, I can see when they've read it. I can see when they've paid it. You guys have a beautiful dashboard, so we can see what's expected, where everything is at, which is great. Now, the one thing we haven't talked about yet, because you guys might be thinking there's another app out there that really kind of sounds like it does the same thing with engagements all the way through to payments. You guys have worked backwards. And I kind of like the way that you've done it because you guys are focusing on the invoicing, or sorry, on the collecting part, and then added in the pads and the engagements and all of that. So where you differ from the other one is this is actually great for any user. I know you guys have said, you know, if it's about between 50 to 100 invoices a month is the ideal, but if you don't use it, you're not billed. You only bill, it's a per usage or per payment received billing, which is perfect. So you can have somebody sign up that maybe isn't in full growth mode and just has the odd one to go out, and it's perfect for cases like that. It is, you know, perfect for everything. But we set up and sent out, I want to say 8 in 4 minutes yesterday, full on. Pick the services, had them invoiced, everything, and it's there. And they're going to be able to, on one screen, accept the proposal, choose either credit card or the ACH, you know, accept it, and boom, the money is going to be within my bank account within, you know, 5 to 7 business days after it processes. So it doesn't come immediately, which is fine by me because it's going to come, and it's $5 per payment to come in. The time that was saved with that was beautiful. What I really like as well is when you guys, so anybody who's watched Ron Baker, since just before COVID, Ron Baker's been talking about subscription services. Instead of the value pricing, he's talking subscription services. That jumped out to me when you guys came in because Omar, you said we're just like Netflix and all of this stuff there where they get the bill, they can go in, you can see exactly what's expected. They can go in, change their credit card number, all of this stuff kind of all on their own or whatever. And it really truly is like that. So you guys are thinking of the future. You know, and again, you don't have to pay a high premium fee when you're not a high volume user. So I like
First of
that.
all, thank you for all the kind words.
Oh, you're welcome.
So I think maybe we can explain a little bit about that process. So basically, the main reason when you're getting an invoice from Netflix, if they even send it, and you don't even think about it, is because you're not worried about the invoice. You trust the invoice and you trust the payment that when you signed up to that service, it was $19 or whatever it was, and you know it's in the background, you don't even think about it. But normally when a service provider is sending an invoice to their clients, that goes into an AP process. They need to validate that you didn't mix it up and added a zero, that you didn't forget and actually send them the same invoice for something they already paid, or that it's not mixed up. They need to validate that it's according to the agreement, a lot of things, and that's the AP process. That's the reason it happens. And you know, Bill.com has all those signatures, and the bigger the organization, the more signatures you need to have. For us, it's, you know, the small businesses, it's less of an issue, but for our clients, we're sending them to work, because if they're getting an invoice and they can't trust it, they need to validate that it's actually accurate. So many of the times that payments are late, it's not because the people on the other side are bad or they have cash flow issues. It's just work, and no one likes that. And because you have a personal relationship, they don't even feel bad about it. They say, they know I'm good for it, I'm going to pay it. But they ignore the fact that the repercussion of what's happening is that you don't know the end of the month how much money you have. And so will you hire more people, advertise more, you grow your business, or you stay close to the ground and make sure that, okay, let's play it safe? And the majority of us will play it safe. It only makes sense. What we're trying to do is first of all, is make sure that everybody trusts your invoice. Because as a client, they know that if that invoice came from Anchor, it means it was originated from a digital agreement. So there's no human touch to it. So there's no surprises. If you said it's going to be $1,000, the invoice is $1,000. And it doesn't mean that you can change it along the way. And I think this is where it becomes very powerful, because sometimes you'll talk to a client, he'll describe the very small work that he wants you to do. You lift the hood, and all of a sudden it's like 4 times the work. So normally when that happens, we need to call him back or send him, and like restructure the agreement, or even cancel it, or cancel the invoice that we already sent. It's like an entire thing. And we understood that if there's any constant, it's change. Things will always be dynamic. So you can, like, if that happens on Anchor, you just call and look, it's much higher. I'm going to charge you like $3,000 for this. And all you need to do is like change from 1,000 to 3,000, click send. Your client gets it and says, accept. The minute he accepts it, all of a sudden it becomes part of a binding legal agreement, and it will invoice them accordingly, either immediately or at the next billing cycle. So you don't need to keep anything in your brain and remember, or notes or anything. It's set it and forget it. And the biggest thing, for at least for me, when I was doing billing, that it was always in my head. I always, like, even if like it was like at the end of the month billing, I still had like, someone didn't pay me for 2 months ago, and I had to like, it always took up bandwidth. So our entire thing is trying to release as much headspace as we can from billing and collection, and making that as streamlined as possible, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It makes a lot of sense. And one thing that I want to, so Galit's asking some questions in here. So, idea of the prices we're looking at. So currently US is $5 per payment. Will you bill us in CAD when you come into Canada? If I'm correct, that answer is probably likely, because how it works is it's not a billing system. It is just like a Square credit card payment, as an example. What goes into your bank account is the net. So it's
even easier. Let's say the invoice is $1,000 or 1,000 Canadian. We only deduct it from what goes out to you. So you will get 995. That means that we're only being paid after you are paid, and there's a complete alignment. This was very critical for us. And there's no minimums, there's no percentages. Right now, there's no subscription of any sort. So the product is essentially free until you get paid. So you can use it for your agreements and not have DocuSign or anything, which is very expensive. You can use it for invoicing. You can use the dashboard, and it's like a cool client portal, and it's completely free. It's only being paid when you get value. And it's around the volume of your use, meaning we don't like put you in a box and say, okay, you have a minimum of $100 or $60 or anything. It's like pay as you go concept. And we believe that the product will be, I think, it adds enough value that we don't need to capture audience in that manner, because from at least our experience, like, no one wants to go back to doing manual billing. It's like not a thing that you crave to do. And once you see that there's a solution that really can free up an employee for some businesses, it depends on the volume of invoices, but in some businesses, let's say that they have 100 invoices or even less, there's a person that, let's say, even if it's not a full position, it's a part-time, but it's a lot of time. This is what they do. And we can free them from doing that and do something meaningful, like, that's
grow your business on the books, bring on another client or two, right? Yes.
Exactly. And like and getting good employees is already hard enough. And then if we put them to do something that's, I think, as humans, we're not as good as this. We're very good at a lot of things. And I think we should keep doing the smart things and let automation do the rest. We're not a robot. And up until, recently, we had to do this, like very, very grind type work. And we're not as good as it, because like how many here, I don't know if there's an ability to vote now, like really quickly, but issued their own invoices, not on time, like meaning that they, like all of us, because, you say, okay,
I got my crap down pat. But what happens, and I've gone in, and this has happened before again, because it's manual. If I go in, you're right, I either don't do it on time, and then it ends up, like you say, on a sticky note and I forget to do it or whatnot. Whereas here, because I'm like, oh, I've got to do like 5 steps. I'll get to that later. Here, boom. Again, what was it? 8 invoices, like full agreement, sent off, everything in like less than 4
And this
minutes.
is only for the first time. Next month,
Yes, exactly. You're right. That's only for the first time. Um, and so, there's that. There's times where I've gone in and I've changed either on their sales receipt that goes out through QBO or in Rotessa, like for the pad agreement, but I forgot to change on the other one. So now I'm like, the deposit goes in. I'm like, why doesn't my deposit not match? Then I have to pull it out and I'm like, oh, great. Now I have to call the client and be like, I'm sorry, your payment withdrawal doesn't match your sales receipt. I've got to reissue this, or, like whatever. It's human error. It happens. Here again, it's kind of all in one, which is beautiful. I do want to address within our last few minutes here, and I'm glad people have asked questions. If there's questions, please feel free to throw them in there. We'll answer them. One thing that came up in our fireside chat was somebody said, well, what about the small clients? I'm going to do some math for you right now, because that's very, very true. Is if it's a small client, let's say it's a $200 a month, if you looked at the credit card fees at that 2.9%, that's $5.80 would have been your credit card fee. This is already less than that. If you say, oh, it's coming out on pad, again, Rotessa's $30. Again, I love Rotessa, but once this is, up and running in Canada, I am moving everybody over. I am paying more because I know I don't have the manual work to go into. I don't have to remember to do all of this stuff. It's just going to be done for me in a single step, which is beautiful. But at the end of the day, so let's take that. Let's say you've got $1,000. Your 2.9%. And that is $29. So you're saving money on that. So look at your dollar cost averaging. It's definitely going to save at the end of the day. And again, it's pay-per-use. So you just have everything come in, you set up an Anchor clearing account, just like you would with Square payments, and boom, it's done. And then of course, Canada, just to point out that, yes, we have just gotten to the credit card surcharging, the 2.4%. Omri and I have already talked about that. That's something that they're going to be aware of, and that there's going to be, the correct legal workaround. And you guys do have, I've just found out, Tal has both an accounting degree and a law degree. That is just insane. So you've got, lawyers, accountants, tech people. You guys have like the full like Avengers team on staff there, which is awesome.
we actually stole him from MasterCard in London. So yeah, he's
Oh,
an amazing addition. And on top of that, in terms of multi-currency, and definitely we started with the US, but the objective and the mandate is to be a very global company. And to do that, we actually a big part of our fundraising was from a company called Rapid. Rapid are like Stripe, only international. They're one of the biggest processors in the world. They process Facebook, Uber, Google outside of the US. So they're huge, and they have a lot of, I think, digital and financial solutions that will enable us to provide a lot of cool things, and with two objectives in mind when we're looking at it. We wanted to make it as most available, meaning cheap and affordable, and to make sure that the money and the processing will be as fast as possible, so that once your client says accept, that the money will hit your account as soon as possible. Right now, what we can do to speed that, and this is what we're doing, you're already getting a notification that the money is secured, even if it's like still roaming within the ACH system or the credit card system. That it's secure, you got paid. It's a matter of a few days. But let's say you want to start working with someone and you don't want to start working until that's valid. You don't need to actually wait, because the system notifies you and let you know, okay, you're good, you can start, the money's yours. So I think that's another key to making sure that businesses get paid. That's our mission, and for them to be able to, I think, thrive instead of survive, because that was, especially during COVID, that was a mentality many service providers actually adopted, that okay, let's just go through this. And I don't like it. I think that if we free ourselves from this mindset and we actually have the bandwidth to look into what we can actually grow, and then you have a stable foundation for your business, you know exactly how much money and when it's coming, you're able to plan better. You don't need to be so reactive to things. And I think that is one of the biggest benefits of having that automation. It frees you to actually look into your business in a different light. And my hope, and this is part of our journey, will be to help, with other things to help you grow the business. But we're starting from the oxygen. We're starting from the foundation, which is for us, I think, without it, it's all just nice talk.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, oh gosh, my mind was just on something as well too, and it's just completely gone. You said something, and yeah, it's just completely gone now. But I'm going to put up another poll in just a couple of minutes here. But again, I think it's simple, and that's what really the focus is simple. It absolutely is a money saver again, and that's what I said. Like I love about you guys, and excuse me, it's the simplicity of everything, the simplicity of the billing. I don't have to sit down and go, okay, I need to put an extra percent, is so much percentage in to cover it. $5 a payment. That's it. Build it into my pricing. So you've got that done. It's, the whole thing is simple. So I'm going to save a whole lot of time. I'm going to save human error. We're going to save so much things. Oh, yes, I remember what I was going to say. You're using currently Stripe, and then it will be Rapid. So we don't need, as users, we don't need to have our own credit card processing account set up. We're using yours. When we go in and you go through the KYC, the know your customer, we're now using yours. So it's, again, everything is integrated into one.
True. And I would add, so a big part of what we're aiming for is your clients. We're taking care of them as well. So this is I think there's two sides for this. It's making sure that you're happy, you're being paid and everything's transparent, but making sure that your client is being served and is actually very happy. So our mission is to make it fun to pay you, which is something that we're actually managing to do, and we're doing surveys, and clients love the fact that they don't need to do anything because it's time. No one likes to deal with these things. So that's another very important aspect of our journey, is making sure that your clients are happy, that they don't churn, that they have transparency to the process, and that they don't need to bug you for things that they can do on their own.
Exactly. So I just popped up the last poll. So just if you'd like to be contacted for a demo, just again, keep in mind, Canada, you're going to be seeing what it's currently like. But if you've got US colleagues, clients in the US, all of that, it's perfect for that. And we'll be coming. If you are going to be around, not necessarily at QBC, but again, around a QBC, look for them. Look for me. If you've got Talia's email address there. They are also part of our online scavenger hunt. So you all should be getting an email for that. We've launched it, and it's a month worth. We do have an iPad to be one. You can win a Google Nest. There's going to be prize packs of demos, a boot camp, all kinds of things. So they are taking part of that. So they're puppy sponsors as well. So if you are at QVC, look for the puppies, because we've got the puppies. So which means that they are donating to Beagle Freedom Project. So thank you very much for your support on that. And watch, because as Omri said earlier, they're pulling together some fun stuff. I've heard what they're kicking around, and it sounds really interesting. So when we know what they're going to do for that, for fun things, we'll absolutely make sure that we're sharing that out. So keep an eye again on our social channels and the emails for that. And if you are going to be there and you want to reach out to connect sometime, have some time to connect there, or even beforehand to get it scheduled, again, with them not having a booth that's going to be difficult. So schedule ahead of time. Talia@sayanchor.com. For those watching this afterwards, I will make sure that this is in the information and so that you've still got that.
And more than anything, for people that are not visiting the conference or don't want to be on the phone with a human or on a Zoom, that's, you can just go into the website and try it out. It doesn't cost anything. There's no credit card requirements. Just it's a self-serve platform in that essence. And then the worst thing is that Robin will reach out to you to ask you if you need any help. So just go ahead and give it a shot.
It's just like the red Staples button, but you need a purple because purple is one of their colors. So you need a purple simple button. Push the simple button. There we go. All right. So we are at time. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending today. And again, for those from the States for taking the time out. I think, James, you're US. So thank you very much for taking the time on your Thanksgiving, for joining us, and anybody else that's joining us live from the US. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much. Those of you that are watching the replay, again, thank you so much. Reach out. And I hope you guys are excited. And again, watch out for, check them out. Again, just very simple, very easy. And James says purple rules. Absolutely. So James, I expect to see something purple on you when I see you at QVC then, because I know you'll be there. So I expect to see purple at QVC. If not, I'll have a little purple, like a little purple temporary, of course, like, spray can. I'll just, put something on there. I'll whatever. Anyway, again, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Omri, for being here today. I can't wait to meet you guys in person. Talia, thank you for being here, and Leanne for helping coordinate everything in the back end. If you guys wanted to hang around, we can pop on real quick because I know, Talia, you've got information for me, so I can bring you in as an attendee and hang around if you've got time. And everybody have a absolutely wonderful weekend, and happy Black Friday shopping tomorrow too. Take care. Have a good day, all.